Have you ever heard of a plan so bad it became legendary? Well, today we're diving into one of Hawaii's biggest ecological blunders, the Great Mongoose Invasion. It's a story that sounds like a cartoon plot, but the consequences were very, very real. So grab your popcorn because this is a wild ride. Our story begins in the late 19th century. Hawaii's booming sugarcane industry was facing a huge problem: rats. These stowaways had arrived on European ships and were absolutely loving the Alucani buffet of sweet, juicy sugarcane. They were causing massive damage, costing plantation owners a fortune. The owners were desperate for a solution, so they tried everything, but the rat population just kept exploding. Then someone had what they thought was a brilliant idea. They'd heard stories from Jamaica about a fierce little predator called the small Indian mongoose. This sleek, lightning-fast creature was famous for its rat hunting skills. On paper, it seemed like the perfect natural solution. Bring in the mongoose, let it eat the rats, and boom, problem solved. What could possibly go wrong? So, in 1883, a man named William H. Purvis, a sugar planter on the Big Island, imported 72 mongooses from India via Jamaica. At first, it seemed like a roaring success. The mongooses were released, and reports started coming in that they were indeed killing rats. The sugar planters were thrilled. They started breeding the mongooses and shipping them to other Hawaiian islands like Maui, Molokai, and Oahu. It seemed like they had found their silver bullet. But then, a crucial, almost comical detail emerged. Someone had overlooked a tiny but vital piece of animal biology. You see, rats are primarily nocturnal. They come out at night to feast on the sugarcane. Mongooses, on the other hand, are diurnal. They are active during the day. So, you had the day shift predator and the night shift pest, basically waving at each other as they clocked in and out. They almost never met. It was a classic case of the left hand doesn't know what the right hand is doing. The mongooses, finding very few rats to hunt during the day, had to eat something. In Hawaii, a land that had evolved for millions of years without any predatory mammals, was an open buffet. The mongooses turned their attention to an easier, more accessible food source: the eggs and hatchlings of Hawaii's native birds. Many of Hawaii's beautiful unique bird species, like the Nene, Hawaiian goose nest on the ground. They had never needed to evolve defenses against a predator like the mongoose. Their populations were completely defenseless. The mongooses also started preying on native insects, reptiles, and even the eggs of sea turtles, including the endangered hawksbill turtle. The solution to the rat problem had just become a much, much bigger problem. The ecological devastation was swift and brutal. The mongoose population, with no natural predators of their own in Hawaii, exploded. They spread across the islands like wildfire, wreaking havoc on the delicate ecosystem. While they did eat some rats, it wasn't nearly enough to control the rat population, which continued to thrive. So now Hawaii had 2 invasive species causing problems instead of 1. The introduction of the mongoose is now considered one of the most disastrous biological introductions in history. It serves as a textbook example of why introducing a non-native species to control another is an incredibly risky gamble. Ecosystems are complex, interconnected webs. Pulling on one thread can unravel the whole thing in ways you can never predict. Interestingly, there are 2 main Hawaiian islands that are famously mongoose-free: Kauai and Lanai. The story goes that when the boat carrying mongooses arrived at Kauai, one of the dock workers, or maybe a local resident, knew about the animals' destructive potential and threw the cage overboard, drowning them all. Another version of the legend says a mongoose bit the person carrying the cage, who then angrily threw the entire crate into the harbor. Whatever the truth, Kauai was spared. As for Lanai, it simply wasn't a major sugar producer, so no one bothered to introduce them there. Today, the legacy of this failed experiment lives on. Mongooses are still a huge problem in Hawaii. They continue to threaten native wildlife, and extensive efforts are made to control their populations, especially in sensitive conservation areas and bird sanctuaries. Trapping programs are in place, and there are strict regulations to prevent them from ever reaching islands like Kauai. It's a constant, expensive, uphill battle, all because of a poorly thought-out plan from over a century ago. What's the takeaway from this story? It's a powerful reminder of our responsibility to protect natural environments. It shows that quick fixes often have long-term, unforeseen consequences. The delicate balance of an ecosystem, especially one as unique and isolated as Hawaii's, can be shattered by a single, careless action. The mongoose didn't ask to be brought to Hawaii. It was a human decision, and one that Hawaii's native species are still paying the price for. It's a cautionary tale written in the history of the islands, a story of rats, mongooses, and a lesson learned the hard way. Next time you see a mongoose dart across the road in Hawaii, you'll know the incredible and slightly absurd story of how it got there. Thanks so much for watching. If you found this story fascinating, make sure to hit that like button. And subscribe for more deep dives into history and science. See you in the next video.